Alrighty, so a little catch-up video here. Yeah, coming down to the stretch run just before the playoffs, so thought this would be a good time to take a look at where we're at as far as the playoff standings, as far as individual stats as well, and we'll take a look at each team kind of individually a little quickly here. So we'll start off straight with the standings as they look so far, starting off with the Pacific Division. The Oilers will lead that, 95 points, a 45-15-5 record so far. Everybody's got about 64 to 67 games played, I believe, right now. We're looking at this at March 1st. No trading in this league, so there's no trade deadline to worry about or anything like that. But it's kind of our last month and change before the playoffs will get running. So see who's pretty much in, who's pretty much out, and who's hanging right around in the middle. Edmonton Oilers, not much shock here, especially in this division, to be leading it. Big-time winning record for them. The Las Vegas Golden Thrashers of Atlanta, turns out they aren't a fluke. What a run they are having. Bit of the Vegas magic has continued on in this team. 39-22-5. Would not have ever expected this from that team, but it's working well for them there right now. So the LA Kings have the third divisional playoff spot right now, 37-25-3, 77 points, only 3 up on the, I believe, top wild card in the West. I'll double check it, but fairly certain. The Anaheim Ducks, and then a pretty big chasm for the rest here in the Pacific. These guys, I think the Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames are going to be fighting over the second wild card. I may have to make sure my dog is not freaking out. The wonders of streaming. All right, let's pause for the cause, I suppose. As always, false alarm. Someone dared to walk within 50 feet of the house or something, probably. Anyway, so yes, the Canucks and Flames outside looking in this division spot, and we'll take a look at the Central before we break it down there. Yeah, so there's the second wild card right there, 70 points, the Winnipeg Jets. So the Canucks and Flames still in the hunt there, 5 and 6 points back respectively. They each have games in hand as well. They're 64 for the Canucks, 66 for the Flames, and 67 for the Ducks, who hold the slot. So take care of that. In the Pacific, San Jose and Arizona, probably safe to say they're pretty much out of it at this point. Some hefty losing records for them. So that'll pretty much be the end of their season. See, barring some form of miraculous comeback, but take a look now at the Central. The St. Louis Blues lead this division, and pretty healthily. Just about 20 points up, 18 points up in the Dallas Stars, a 42-18-7 record for them. The Stars 34-26-5. Just a point up on Colorado and 3 up on Winnipeg, who hold that second wild card spot. Minnesota Wild, Chicago Blackhawks hanging on. Probably going to be chasing the wild card. Maybe a sniff of the third divisional spot there, but probably doubtful. Pretty much just the second wildcard spot, I'd say, in contention for the West right now. But weirder things have happened. Nashville Predators, wouldn't call that striking distance, but yeah, they're better off than the Sharks and Coyotes anyway. Nashville was a team that started off hot. I believe they were up in the top 3 in the league after our first month of action. After months 2 and 3, they were still hanging around too, but yeah, when we dug into the team stats a bit more in that one, it was largely in large part to a probably unsustainable performance from Pecorine. We'll see what his numbers look like now a little later on, but clearly Nashville not able to ride that high as they've collapsed all the way to the bottom of their division. We'll move over to the Eastern Conference now. We'll save the Atlantic for last, just because that's the the big division with all the big superpowered original 6 teams. We'll go straight to the Metro. The Winnipeg Jets, wow, get them in the mind apparently. The Pittsburgh Penguins lead this division. 85 points with them, a 41-20-3 record. 6 points up on both the Capitals and Islanders, who hold the 2 other divisional spots. A pretty big gap back to the wildcard Hurricanes. And then a healthy gap back there to the Flyers and Devils, Rangers and Blue Jackets. All hunting right there. We'll see what the other wildcard spot looks like. If I had to guess, it's probably higher than Carolina, just based on what that division is. But we'll see. I actually I don't have that in my head right now, so you'll learn that as soon as I do. Only 2 teams here with a straight up losing record, if you ignore overtime losses, and everybody hanging on. Well, again, it'll depend on that other wild card spot, but it's probably safe to write the Rangers and Blue Jackets off here, but who knows? And here's the Atlantic. Well, the wild card spot is pretty low, actually. 65 points. Oh, no, sorry. Nope, I got it wrong. Where am I? I'm looking at the wrong thing. Where am I? Yeah, I was looking at games played. My bad. 74 points is the top wild card spot for the Carolina Hurricanes, 72. So not as far ahead as I thought it might be. But there's the top 3. Not much surprise in the top 3. All tied as well, 77 points apiece. The Bruins, Red Wings, and Canadiens. 3 of the big-time original 6 teams. I would argue 3 of the best teams here. And kind of a problem with having all these guys in the divisions. They have to play each other all the time, too, so not really able to rack up those big points. Hey-yo. Thanks for stopping by. Just going through some stats and standings here. After 5 months of action, we're going into our final month before the playoffs, so figured we'd just take a little breakdown of everything. So the Sabres hold that first wild card. The second one we just saw at 72 points. The Ottawa Senators will be tied for that one, but the tiebreaker goes to the Hurricanes and the Metro. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, another big original 6 team, probably expected to do a bit better than they are right now, but still on the hunt, especially for the wild card spot. The divisional spot's probably out of reach there, but they're hanging on. And the 2 Florida teams, the Panthers, hanging on. Probably not going to fight up against these big teams, but who knows? And the Lightning pretty much written off at this point. Yeah, it turns out when you have Yzerman, Fedorov, Howe, and Sawchuk in net, you might be doing pretty okay up there. So there's the standings as they stand. We'll go through the team stats here. I like to go look at goals for. We'll go per game just because it's a little more fair. The Edmonton Oilers, the high-powered Oilers with Gretzky and McDavid and Messier, top 3 centers. No real surprise to see them near the top and way at the top of the goals for per game here. Vancouver Canucks and LA Kings round up the top 3. The West is where scoring happens. They own most of the top of the board here. The Washington Capitals is the top team in the East. As far as goals for go, as we'll take a look down here. At the bottom, the Asheville Predators struggling to score all season. It worked for them for a while when they got the goaltending. Now they don't. Yes, alumni teams. Some all-time Legends teams here. Not just the ones that were in the game, but I've created some players as well and added them all in. So our bottom 4 and 5, Nashville, Arizona, New York, and San Jose. We saw with the top scoring teams, a lot of guys out of the West. The top not-so-scoring teams, a lot of them out of the West, too. So I guess there's only so many goals to go around. Pittsburgh Penguins have the best goals against so far. A nice 3 goals per there as well, so looking good for the top team in the Metro. Buffalo Sabres with Dominic Hasek in net. Expected them to not give up a whole lot in this one. That's helping them big time, especially staying ahead of Toronto for that wild card spot. can always depend on Dom Hasek to keep you in the hunt. And the Edmonton Oilers, they can score, but they can defend as well in this one. They're working out great for them. Same goes for the St. Louis Blues there. No shock to see your top three teams in the league up here in the defensive categories as well as the offensive categories. Go down and find out who's getting their net filled. Vancouver Canucks, wow. So all kinds of goals for Vancouver and all kinds of goals in their net as well. They're with the many goals as they're scoring to be 23rd in the league. Well, this is why. Turns out the goalie tandem of Roberto Luongo and Kirk McLean not working out so well for them. We'll take a look at their stats later, see if it's all goaltending. But there's the Canucks way down there. Carolina Hurricanes hanging on to the second wildcard spot in the East. Whole lot of goals finding the back of their net. Goaltending we knew would be an issue for them with Urbe and Ward compared to some of the other more touted goaltenders in this league. The Ottawa Senators as well, right there in the playoff hunt. Giving up lots of goals and negative goal differentials for them there too. So some teams, if they can find a way to keep pucks out of their net, should be able to find their way into the playoffs. Take a look at power play percentage briefly here. There's the top. I won't go through these as much. But the Oilers, no shock there. The big offense, the big power play. At the opposite end, a lot of these teams that are out of the playoff hunt, our worst playoff team right now is going to be Winnipeg right there. And Carolina down here as well. The wild card teams hanging on. Special teams not working out for them, at least on the offensive side of things. Neither on the defensive side for Carolina. That's an awful penalty kill. They are just hanging on to that playoff spot. The Oilers, a fantastic penalty kill as well. There's a reason they're the best team in the league. Best goals for, best goals against, and best special teams for those crazy high-powered Oilers. Buffalo Sabres, big penalty kill from them. How much of that is just the goaltender? But we know they've got some good penalty killers back there. Michael Pekka comes to mind. As well as the defenseman Zhitnik. So they've got some defensive-minded bodies back there in front of Hasek as well, but I'm sure he doesn't hurt. We'll just briefly run through it here. I think that's pretty much going to be it for team stuff. Yeah. I always enjoy seeing who gets a bunch of shorthanded goals. Leafs in Chicago, just running away with shorthanded goals for some reason. Good for them. Moving into player stats, we'll take a look at the league stats first, starting with the top points. Art Ross leader so far. Not much of a surprise here either. The great one himself, Wayne Gretzky, leads with 85 points through 65 games. A monstrous total so far for Gretzky. Expect to see him near the top of the board in the other categories here too. Danny Heatley of the Vegas Golden Thrashers of Atlanta sits second. He's been right along the top of this board in goal scoring and in points for pretty much the whole season. Same with Pavel Bure. I believe it was mostly the Panthers Bure that was near the top earlier, but Canucks Bure has taken over, so good for him. Daniel Alfredson, Bure in Florida. Kovalchuk, Solani from Winnipeg. Correa, Bossy, Connor McDavid, and Wayne Gretzky once again over on LA. Round out the top 10 in points. We'll see goals. Three-way tie for the Rocket Richard right now. Danny Heatley, the Oilers' Wayne Gretzky, and Paul Correa, all with 48 goals apiece. And Pavel Bure from Florida, just one goal behind them. And those four are running away with it. A gap back to two other guys we would expect to be in the Rocket Richard hunt, Mike Bossy and Alex Ovechkin. Not quite able to keep up to the pace of Bure, Correa, Gretzky, and Heatley right now. The rest of the top 10, Mario Lemieux, Rocket Richard himself, Bobby Hull, Pavel Bure once again, and Eric Lindros rounds up the top 10 there. In the assist side, Nicholas Backstrom, Ilya Kovalchuk, the Ducks' Adam Oates, Mark Recchi, Kent Nielsen, Brett Hull from Dallas, Daniel Alfredson, Bobby Orr, Yari Curry, and Timu Solani, and Sasha Barkov round off the top 10 there. I believe that's 10. I'm not counting it off. I think it's 10. Plus minus, don't like to base a whole lot in plus minus, but we'll take a look at the leaders. A runaway leader there a little bit. Going to see a lot of the Oilers here. Not really surprising with how well they're doing. Second best team in the league. Pronger and McInnes, their best D pairing is going to be up there. And down near the bottom, we're going to see the teams that, well, aren't doing so great. It's basically just the Yotes. It's a 5-man unit for Arizona. What if they put them on the ice together all the time? Might want to stop doing that. Penalty minutes leaders. A big 159 for Kevin Bieksa. He's running away with that. Darren McCarty in behind him at 125. And Mark Borowiecki, the three that have cracked the 100 mark. We'll take a look a little bit there. All kinds of goals means all kinds of shots. Wayne Gretzky and Danny Heatley tied for goals, tied perfectly for shots. Paul Kariya also tied with them, not far behind in the shot category either. So there's that. Got to shoot to score, and these guys certainly are. Big shooting percentage for them, but it's working when you got guys as good as they are. Captain Clutch is Wayne Gretzky with 8 game winning goals on the power play. That goes to the Panthers' Pavel Bure. This is goals. All kinds of power play goals for Korea, helping his Rocket Richard hunt. Kind of interesting to see Gretzky a lot farther down the list, and especially Bure, only 2 back of Korea, but in the top 10 nonetheless. And who else are we missing in that crew there? Danny Heatley, there he is, yeah. So Heatley's up there, of course. Usually you got to get lots of power play goals to be in the Rocket Richard hunt, and those guys certainly are. There's the rest of our Thomas Carbolet. 12 power play goals. That's the thing with those creative players. You got to give them he's an offensive defenseman who has an accurate shot, so of course he's going to shoot a lot. But it's Cabriolet, but it can't program the Cabriolet button into not making him shoot. So Thomas Cabriolet's got all kinds of goals. It's hilarious. Power play points. Bossy's at the top of that. I always like checking shorthanded goals. Brian Little, the leader there with 3. Anybody with more than 3 points? John Carlson with 4. Let's think about all we'll look at here. How many fights going around? Wouldn't expect there to be a whole lot. There's usually not a lot. At least the way I sim stuff. But Kevin Bieksa leads that. Bieksa, McCarty, and Borowiecki lead the penalty minutes. They lead the fights. I think Bookaboo and McSorley were in that run too. So check the goalies quickly. Wins leaders Grant Fuhr. We're going to do a, let's call it 30 game limit. Just to get the perma backups out of it here. So Grant Fuhr has the lead in wins. Worst loss record goes to Evgeny Nabokov of the San Jose Sharks. Jonathan Quick, Rogie Vachon, they've been splitting the net for LA. A bit of a more wins to Quick, but we see the save percentage about the same for both of them. Just a couple points off there, but Vachon not able to get the wins. 7 less games as well, so that's the LA tandem. And of course Grant Fuhr has that there. Another tandem down here, Van Beesbrook and Luongo splitting the net. Similar situation to LA, where the goaltender, both goaltenders splitting the net fairly evenly, and neither one really with all that great numbers. Save percentage, best in the league is Dominic Hasek at a .925. Sergei Bobrovsky in Columbus doing absolutely everything he can to keep that team in the hunt, but just hasn't worked for him, hasn't gotten the goal support. They're at the bottom of their division. Curtis Joseph, second best team in the league, is the St. Louis Blues. Curtis Joseph, a big part of that with the .918. You'll see the rest here in the top 10s. We'll go through each of the goaltenders a little later with their individual teams. Worst save percentage, we saw Blake switched over. Going to be Roberto Luongo of the Vancouver Canucks. And not far Ahead, behind, let's say ahead, is Roberto Luongo in Florida. I gave him good stats. I don't know why he's not doing great, but there he is. Johnny Bauer down here for Toronto. Big 44 games played for him. I think they've mostly switched over to Turk Broda now, but we'll see that later. That could be a big reason why Toronto not in there in the big top 3 hunt with their fellow original Sixers in the Atlantic Division. Another surprising one, Patrick Waugh, way down here for Colorado. Goals against, I don't like to look at as much, but we'll see it. See a lot of the same names. There, so we'll just kind of flip through the best and the worst on that. Shutouts, I totally skipped over shutouts. Dominik Hasek leads there with 7. A 3-way tie for a second with Jacques Plante, Tom Barrasso, and Sergei Bobrovsky. In behind them, Sachuk, Fuhrer, and Nabokov. Decent amount of shutouts to go around this season. If there's anything else we want to take a look at. Anybody score? Is there any? One goalie goal. It's Grant Fuhrer has a goalie goal. Everybody's scoring for Edmonton, including the goalie. And a couple guys with 3 assists. Fleury, Brodeur, and Plante. Brodeur, not much of a surprise. As we'll just quickly run through the teams here. We'll just look at their top goal scorer, top points, and then everybody else is on the screen. I'll just leave it there for a little while if you want to take a look at it. But here's the Anaheim Ducks, led by the man tied for the goal-scoring lead in the league, Paul Kariya. And he's got a big share of his team's goals, just about doubling second place Corey Perry. That top line is Oates, Solani, and Kariya. Solani and Oates. No surprise to see them as the top of the assists for them. Just feeding Kariya the puck. There's the points leaders. I'm going to go back to the league just for a sec, just to look at the defensive leader in points. No surprise that it's Bobby Orr and Paul Coffey. Goals is Thomas Caberlet. That's great. There's your top offensive defenseman. So back to Anaheim here. There's their defenseman. Scott Niedermayer, the lion's share of the offensive defenseman duties here. And in net for them, it's been solely J.S. Shiger. Oh, I got the 30 games still. We'll put that back. Oopsie. There we go. J.S. Shiger and Guy Hebert, the 2 goaltenders for Anaheim. 52 games played for Shiger. He's their starter. A 907. Not spectacular, but we're not seeing a lot of. We saw earlier with the league leaders in save percentage. You got Hasek in the 925. Everybody else below 920. So 907 going to be pretty respectable. Arizona starting from their net. There's Burke and Mike Smith. They've been mostly sharing the net. Burke getting a bit more. This team pretty much out of it at this point. Goaltending kind of reflecting that. Both goalies under 900. Keith Tkachuk, their leading point scorer. Goals, Shane Doan. We'll see a little bit of their goal scorers there. For the Boston Bruins, Bobby Orr, their leading point scorer, and it's by a pretty decent amount, too. 8 points over Phil Esposito, who is their leading goal scorer. And that's for them. We got Rask and Cheevers. Rask has taken over. Rask started off as the starter. I tried to get Cheevers in there when I looked through a couple of the other months and he was doing better. I slotted him in, but I still got the auto-rotate goalies going, so I think they've mostly gone back to Rask, but it's certainly, the gap is certainly closed up between the two of them. Cheevers still had some pretty great numbers, and we've sort of seen Boston climb up the standings since then, too, so I think they have been playing Cheevers a bit more than they were. He was more of a locked-in backup. I think he's been getting more starts. You see it in the wins, too. So I think a lot of the run that Boston has done to march up the standings is going to be because of Gary Cheevers here, but I'm just kind of assuming. Starting from the net for Buffalo, we've talked about him already. There's Dominik Hasek. Great individual numbers for him. His wins and losses, not as great as you would hope for him, but they're hanging on to that wild card spot in the East, the top wild card spot. They've got a couple points on Toronto this day into the playoffs, and if they make it there with the goaltending that Hasek gives them, you can't count them out. On paper, maybe not necessarily the best team. Being the top wild card might be good for them to get out of that Atlantic Division, away from Boston, Montreal, and Detroit. Right now, as it would stand, they'd be playing Pittsburgh, so not exactly an easy task either. But, like I said, when you get Dominik Hasek in net, going to be hard to count them out. 3 players at the top for Buffalo, the 2 leaders, Pat LaFontaine and Rick Martin. Rene Robert just a point back, so you get that French Connection line for the Sabres is their top line. But Pat LaFontaine is tied for the lead in points, and I believe he's going to be their goal-scoring leader as well. So 2 big lines for Buffalo. Not as many points as some of the other team leaders, but a pretty decent spread between them too, especially with those top 2 lines. Calgary Flames top point scorer, Kent Nielsen. Goal scorer is going to be Jerome McGinley with 26. In net for them, we've got Mika Kiprasov and Mike Vernon. Kiprasov's been getting the starts. He's got the numbers to back it up too. Not quite a winning record for them. I believe they're on the outside looking in right now. Still trying to hang on. Yeah, that's right. They were 2 spots down, just kind of hanging on to that wild card spot for the West. So Carolina has the second wild card spot in the East. Here's their goaltending. It's been Archer Zerbe who's been getting most of the starts here, in .891 for him, though. I think, believe the gap here is closed up between the 2 goalies, too. Cam Ward might be taking over a bit more. I'll go take a look at what's going on there and make the switch manually, too, especially with Zerbe struggling like he is. Want to give every team the best chance they have to succeed. Ray Whitney leads in points. Looks like he's going to lead in goals, too. Yes, he is. Jeff O'Neill is just behind him. Then we got Francis in behind him there in points. Chicago's Bobby Hull leads in points. Look like he's going to have a pretty big lead in goals, too. Yes, he is. There's some leaders there for them. We'll head to the net. It's going to be Glenn Hall and Tony Esposito. Hall's been the starter. Both goaltenders kind of struggling here, too, both under 900. The Blackhawks on the outside looking in. And I think they're pretty far out, too. It's going to take a bit of a lot for them. Goaltending seems to be their biggest issue, which you would not expect with 2 grade A goaltenders like Hall and Esposito. Speaking of goaltenders, strange to be struggling is Patrick Waugh, but he's got the winning record. They've got a fantastic offense, a pretty all right defense, too. And for Colorado, if they can hang on, stick around the playoff hunt, maybe try to find their way into the playoffs, especially in that weaker West. If Patrick Waugh can find his groove in the playoffs, they'll be trouble. Alex Tanguay, a bit of a surprising points leader for them with the likes of Forsberg and Sakic and Stastny on this team. Forsberg will lead in goals for them with 22. Columbus Blue Jackets, their last place in the Metro. We just finished up a game with them in the Minnesota Wild. Nikolai Zherdev leads for them. Looks like he's going to lead them in goals, too. Just a goal up on Rick Nash. For this team to have a chance to compete, especially in the East, they got the Metro rather than the Atlantic, but still, they were going to need big performances from their goaltender, which they got. We saw him earlier near the top of the goaltending charts, and they're going to need a big performance from Rick Nash. Looks like he hasn't quite held up his end of the bargain over here, but that's how it goes for the Blue Jackets. We'll look at Bobrovsky again. He's got Mathieu Gaudon as his backup. A 9.19 for Bobrovsky. I believe he was sitting there in second and behind Dominik Hasek far as a league-wide save percentage. So Borowski did everything he could for this Columbus squad, but they're still most likely going to be left on the outside going in the playoff time. Dallas Stars, a bit more even split here for them. Belfour has the starting job, but not quite 20 more games than Turco, who's hanging right there on the 920s too, so might be another guy that could take over for them. It might be another switch I might have to go make for them. Put Turco in there instead of Belfour. Leading point scorer for them, Brett Hall. Point per game for him, 65 in 65. Usually expecting more of a goal scorer. He's got a lot of assists in this one. Their top goal scorer is actually going to be Dino Cicerelli with 27 goals. Looks like Sagan's been the goal scorer. Sagan and Ben and Hall have all been kind of, they're that top line. They've been kind of spreading the goals in between them. Hall playing more of the setup man, which is kind of fun. Pavel Datsyuk leads the Detroit Red Wings by a 9-point margin over Sid Abel. A lot of big names here that you'd expect to see at the top. Not quite there. Got the Yzerman and Howe down here a bit more. Top goal scorer going to be Sergei Fedorov. But everybody, these four here, Datsyuk, Abel, Howe, and Fedorov. A goal separating each of them as you run down. In the net for them, Terry Sawchuk and Chris Osgood. Sawchuk's been getting the starts there. A 905 for him. Pretty respectable through 56 games. They are in that top two in the Atlantic. Just behind Montreal, I believe. If you took a look there. My memory's immediately gone. Edmonton Oilers, best team in the league. We saw Grant Fuhr near the top earlier. He's been getting the starts. We'd expect maybe more of a split between him and Ranford, but Fuhr's taking the ball and run with it. A 9-15 for him right near the top of the league. 40 wins on the season. That leads the league. And here come the points. Wayne Gretzky's 85 leads the team. Another point per game player behind him and Connor McDavid. Second in defensive scoring in the league is Paul Coffey. He's their third highest scorer. And when you get the two top centers, Gretzky and McDavid right there, clicking like that, and then you get the secondary scoring back here at Messier. He's going to be lower in points. He's playing on the third line. Not the number of points you'd expect for Messier, but I assume based on his ice time, that's going to be a pretty good mark for him too. I see his line mates Anderson up here with 46, plays on that Messier line, so that third line's been doing well for them. Even the fourth line, this is Doug Waite on the Oilers' fourth line, sitting there with 51 points, playing alongside Alex Hemsky with 44 and Ryan Smith. We'll see what their I'm curious to see their ice time, because that's some crazy points for those guys. Yeah, it lines up that way. I know I got them set as the fourth line, and that's what they're playing. They are just eating other teams' fourth lines for lunch. Look at that. There's that fourth line. Waite and Hemsky, 51 and 44. Ryan Smith on that line. Not getting as many points, and they're still in the minuses, so that doesn't tell you anything but plus minus. Pavel Bure leads for the Panthers